It's the moment when expectations collide with reality.
How can I get a job that will allow me to be all these places? Anxiety, which is making it impossible for anybody to feel like they can even move forward.
Sometimes the hardest stage, but as a parent of adult children, I'm going to say this might be one of the hardest stages of adulthood.
What if I'm picking the wrong path? Parents also just having a hard time not still being involved, and that's has to be entirely from COVID. A pretty common anxiety, OCD, and body dysmorphic disorder.
We stop pretending. Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz Podcast, where girls isn't about gender, it's about grit. We celebrate the dreamers, the builders, and the difference makers bold enough to start. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. All right, so here we are. It is a fabulous Monday today, and we are recording first thing this morning. So excited about my guest, and I'm going to open up with this today. I'm excited about this episode. So I wanted to say sometimes the hardest stage, but as a parent of adult children, I'm going to say this might be one of the hardest stages of adulthood. And it starts like this. Sometimes the hardest stage of life isn't childhood, it's adulthood. I'm going to confirm this. It's the moment when expectations collide with reality, when a young person leaves home, steps into college or independence, and suddenly the path forward becomes unclear. Anxiety, mental health struggles, substance use, and identity questions can surface in ways families never expected. My guest today has dedicated her career to supporting families during these moments, helping them find the right resources, the right support systems, and the right path forward for their young adults. Through her years of experience working with emerging adults and their families, she's learned that success in adulthood doesn't always follow a straight line. Isn't that magical? And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is help someone find their way back to themselves. I'm excited about this. It's going to be great. Oh my gosh, I'm loving this already. So before we bring her on, y'all know the drill. I do have to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. And with that, I do want to make a mention to head on over to startergirlz.com. And why do I say that? For 3 reasons. 1, because if you have missed an episode, it is a great place to catch up. It's also a great place to sign up for our community newsletter, and you can stay in the know of all these fabulous episodes that go out. And then also, if you are an aspiring creator, an entrepreneur, or maybe you're in the thick of it right now and you want to know what your number one success block is that may be hindering your success, well, guess what? I've got you covered. You can go over there and take my 2-minute quiz, and it will tell you exactly what block may be affecting your success right now. So as I always say, head on over to startergirlz.com and do your thing. All right. My guest today, Joanna Lilley, founder of Lilly Consulting, a consulting practice that has been helping young adults and their families navigate mental health, substance use, and wellness resources since 2016. Joanna specializes in working with emerging adults between the ages of 18 and 29, those who may be struggling to find their footing in adulthood, despite strong family support. She works closely with families, treatment professionals, and support systems to identify the right therapeutic and development resources so young adults can begin healing, growing, and moving forward. And so, Joanna, I'm just going to leave it there. She's also a great podcast host, and I know she's going to talk about that at some point here, but we're going to go ahead and get her on here. So, Joanna, welcome to the show. So excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
It's going to be fun. So, I'm like, my notes are like long. I'm just going to stop. I don't want to say everything about who you are. I think I said enough, but I'm just so excited to chat about this because you and I got to chat a little bit previously, and as you know, I am a mom of that age bracket that you've got right there. My oldest is 29, my youngest is 21. We're this year. My oldest is going to hit 30, so we're going to be into a whole nother generational bracket. But as a parent of that group, I will absolutely say that can be one of the most trickiest age groups to navigate in these days. So I'm so excited to just get some nuggets of wisdom from you on this topic.
Happy to fill you in on whatever it is that feels pressing or pertinent, especially as a parent of 3 young adults.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start talking a little bit about what got you to this work, because as you know, that's what this show is about. It's all about, the person who I'm talking to, what they do, why they do it, all of that, what they've learned, all those good things. I want to know what led you and brought you to this place where you're like, I want to work with this age group and help them thrive and win.
Well, I will start by actually saying that although the consulting, like my actual business itself, is about 10 years old, and like the idea of it, was kind of percolating a couple years before that, really, in hindsight, it actually started when I was a freshman in college myself. And so from my own personal experiences, it's funny how it's like bridged with what it is that I'm doing now, and also the empathy that I have for a lot of the young adults that I'm working with. So to be really succinct, I went to college just clueless. First of all, I was barely 18. I think I turned 18 the week before college actually started. I went in with a preconceived idea with what I was going to do within the first semester. I actually did not end on academic probation, which I feel very fortunate about, and that's partly because I had 2 very easy classes that I was excited about, and that's what carried my weight. But what I reflect back on is that I had some mentors on campus that not literally, metaphorically shook me by the shoulders at the end of that first semester, and they were just like, "What are you doing?" Right? Like your areas of wellness are out of balance. Like you are having way too much fun socially. You got to get real about why you're in college. And so again, that seed planted now carries forward with some of the work that I do in getting honest about, what are you doing with young adults? Not in a judgmental way, but just in a space of like, truly, why are we here where we are right now? Because I want you to stop and think, right? Like you have the opportunity to shift gears. So fast forward, I got really, really dialed on academics. I ended up double majoring. I loved it. I also graduated right before 2008. And so kind of hit the recession. One of my degrees was in kind of the art education field, which clearly immediately evaporated because of just, education systems kind of pulling back on what they saw as non-core classes. And so I veered off path, went and worked seasonally for 5 years, like, okay, I'm going to do all these cool things, and found myself constantly, because I had wanderlust. I was like, I want to travel. Where can I go? How can I get a job that will allow me to like be all these places? Meanwhile, I should say, as like a little sidebar, I had some extreme anxiety at that time too, which also just gives me like my own personal lived experience of like, again, understanding kind of this developmental period and ways in which we are maladaptive in the way that we cope, or how we handle some of the things that life kind of throws at us during that initial, like 18 to 25 time period. But I worked a bunch. I loved it. Realized that I was, not able to turn off, again, anxiety. And then I was like, I want to go back to school. I want to get a master's in counseling. This feels like it's an appropriate path for me. Totally went through the program. Definitely felt like a square peg fitting in a round hole in terms of the actual program itself, but still managed to get my degree. Worked in higher education, was loving that. This was actually the first time that I was truly working with college students as somebody that was almost 10 years older than college students. And it wasn't until I was working towards my licensure as a clinician that I just had this aha moment of like, well, first, I need to do my own therapy. And second, I also just don't want to be a therapist. What I like is the relationships that I have with young adults, but then matchmaking them with the right resources. Like I would be remiss to say, oh, I'm going to be this therapist and I'm going to work with all these young adults and it's going to be awesome. And then my scope was, but then I'm limited to who shows up, right? Like, and that's only if the right clients are finding me. So I just had this moment where I was like, I just want to be the guide that works with them again for a very short amount of time, establishes rapport and trust, but then connects them to those right professionals or resources or communities that they need to be a part of so that they can thrive, that they can grow, they can heal. And my job is done. Like, I work myself out of the job because, okay, great. Now you've got the right people, you're at the right place, and I can just phase out. So that is, I worked in higher ed, like I said, and just became pretty jaded working with a system. And that was where in 2014, 2015 was when I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I want to continue to work with these students, but how do I make this work? And so ended up leaving higher ed, took a job that allowed me the space. And honestly, they hired me knowing that I was building my consulting business. And so anytime that I had like, basically days off or sick days or vacations, like I just use that to travel around, to spend time meeting with providers that work with young adults, to feel comfortable then fully hanging my shingle. Even though I launched my business in 2016, I really didn't like go all in until 2018.
Okay.
But at that point, I've been all in ever since.
Got it. Okay. No, I love this. And you know what? It's you're like the matchmaker. And that's so funny. I just used that term the other day loosely. I was talking about actually pet sitting because I told you I have that too.
Yeah.
And in my coaching, I feel that's what I kind of do too. Cause I don't really enjoy like necessarily, I mean, I can business, life, and health coach. I can do all of them. I don't really enjoy that.
Mm.
I enjoy more putting people in touch with the right things that they need to be in touch with. But I used that term loosely the other day with my pet sitting. I was kind of trying to describe my role, what I do. And I'm like, I sort of kind of match the pet parent family with the right sitter because that matters. it really does. You know? But I love this that you're doing because, and I hear you when I hear that you say, getting out of the system and being able to have that autonomy to kind of, I think it gives you the freedom to figure out what's the right way to help somebody instead of putting them into a system that everybody may not be able to follow.
Yeah.
And so I can absolutely relate to that because I feel like I've identified with some of those things in work that I've done too. And that's really why I can't follow. I have a lot of modalities. I can't really follow any one mode because I don't believe everybody fits into one box in anything. I think there's always a gray area. And when you try to black or white people, what I mean, go one way or the other, when you miss the gray, you start putting people into boxes and you really miss out on a lot of things. You don't help people when you do that. So I really love that you're talking about these things because I think it's important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's actually, that it raises a good point because I would say that, and this is kind of in line with what you're talking about, I get asked oftentimes, like if I'm speaking with a therapist or a psychiatrist or, just somebody who's like, do you have a short list of programs or providers that you refer to? And my answer is no. I cap my caseload at 12. And if I look at the 12 clients that are on my caseload, all 12 are in different places. Like, I mean, I'm talking different towns, different states. They're connected to different resources, like what it is that they're working on, like their journey getting to this point with them meeting with me. Everything is so, I hate to use the term individualized or unique, but it truly is. Yeah, it's absolutely true.
You're dealing with humans, and anytime you are, I'll tell you something I learned from a mentor, and it gives me chills when I think about this because you will actually like this. I had this mentor that I worked with out of Scotland for 2 years, I think 2 years. His mom was a psychologist. So we got a lot of, I feel like intense psychology training. And one of the things he always talked about is, humans. We try to solve complex problems, which are human problems with complicated solutions. And the way that because I have to put things, that's why I'm a storyteller. Complicated is like putting an airplane together. You have an end, you have a beginning. You do the beginning, if you put this together, you have the end result. Human condition is not that way. There is no end, beginning. There's a beginning, maybe, if something's going on, but there is really no end. And we think that every time that take, for instance, growing as an adult, we have this idea that we go to school K through 12, then we go to college. that's the end of our journey. Really, that's the end of our education. No, that doesn't mean you need to open
Yeah.
a book and study math for the rest of your life. But really, we should be teaching the idea that growth is really an entire process of life. It is from the
Yeah.
day you are born and you can start comprehending things to the maybe, because that's pretty early. Babies pick up things early, all the way till you end your place on this planet, right? And
Mhm.
so that's the thing is that we try to take these complicated solutions and we're like, oh, we're going to throw this on somebody and they should have it and figure it out. And that's the way it is. But it just doesn't really work out that
Yeah.
way. And the sooner we understand that as in whether it be, with relations at home, in work, wherever it
Mhm.
is, I think the easier it is because you recognize that you may not always have a solution. It may
Yeah.
be empathy, understanding,
Yep.
listening, all those things that are sometimes uncomfortable, you
Yeah.
know?
Or things that are hard to measure too, right?
Yes.
Like what you're
Yes.
talking about is just like I get and where my head goes when we're talking about this is I'm also often asked, this one's by parents, less of like providers or resources, but they're always like, what's your success rate? And I'm like,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
such a it's yeah, and I'm sure,
Sure.
yeah,
How do
I
you
pre
define success on that level? So it's like my therapist say, what's
yeah,
bad? To what extent is it even bad? Your perception of
exactly.
bad, my bad are going to be different, which means your success and my success may have a different scope. We have different
Yeah.
metrics.
Yeah.
I mean, when you don't have an ROI in the terms of monetary goals, success to you
Exactly.
might be like, hey, if I get all of my kids, they are active, they all have jobs, they're
Mm.
getting up, they're going to work. Okay, for them, that might, or it may be they're getting up and they're happy about what they're doing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah, and I so appreciate you saying all that because ultimately my response is it depends on how you define success. And quite honestly, we're talking also about two competing goals, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm working with the young adults, so I'm focused on in the short amount of time that I'm working with them, what are the goals they're working towards? And some of
Yeah.
it is very ambiguous, right? Like empathy, some things are a little bit more tangible or like easily identified that yes, I've
Right.
achieved this goal. So if one of those things is I want to, enroll in college or if I want to like start working a job and I want to save X amount of dollars, like those are really tangible things that we can work towards and then
Right.
actually see the results. Whereas with parents too, my kind of what the information that I'm collecting from them is more around the expectations that they also have for their young adult, which again is a whole other
Yeah.
conversation in itself and it's so loaded, but it all boils down to like if you're looking for something that feels transactional of like we work together and at the end of this time period here's what we can see.
Yeah.
Unless we can actually work towards something that we can see, what I'm usually kind of pushing back on parents is we're looking for growth. We're looking for
Right.
change. And sometimes we don't know what that's going to look like. And it's really hard to
Yeah.
measure in real time. So I don't want to like set the young adult up for a situation where the parents are upset, right? It's just
Right.
like this is such a messy period in development regardless. So also just trying to walk back like that's normal, right? If you're really just trying to put a dollar sign on it or looking for
Yeah.
like some percentage for success, I'm not your person.
Right. No, I hear you. And I feel like, yeah, you're in that space. Like, I mean, different, we're in similar but different. And I get it because people do. And I'm like, I don't know how you measure that unless you're talking about like putting a dollar sign. How do you put a dollar
Yeah.
sign on a human condition? You can't really do that. It
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. I would love to know like what this process kind of looks like from the time. So like when somebody comes to you, I'm assuming having some kind of, conversation with them,
Mhm.
figuring out what they need, what their objective is. But tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about what that process looks like from your end.
Yeah, a pretty common scenario is that parents will reach out to me first. So
Okay.
I should also say, like, I get really excited when it's the young adult that's
Right,
reaching
which
out
is
to me
probably
first.
seldom, right?
It's so seldom, and I really do light up when that's
Yeah.
like that they're the driver in the process. I'm like,
Right,
yes,
right.
let's do this. Okay, so typically it's the parent reaching out, hey, we're worried about our young adult. We're kind of curious to see whether or not like this might be a path where we can kind of support them. I'll kind of talk through the logistics of how I work, which is 3 months.
Yeah.
I really am meant to be this short bridge. Parents need to understand that. I'm also redefining kind of or explaining to them what I don't do just as much as what I do,
Sorry.
because that's also challenging for, sometimes parents come in and they're like, well, you'll be helping them apply for colleges. And I'm like, nope, that's actually not my area of expertise. I did used to work in higher education, so I have that like college capital and knowledge,
Yeah.
but I am not an expert. There are plenty of people that do that. So I'm like very, very, it feels sometimes like it's a narrow lane, but it is what it is. I want to make sure they have a clear understanding of what I do. Once I meet with them, then it's like, hey, let me meet you with your young adult. The young adult then, and that's all a part of kind of the complementary consultation process. I'm
Gotcha.
trying to identify, are the parents going to be kind to work with? Even though I have limited interactions with them, do they have realistic expectations? Do they understand my role? Do they understand boundaries, etc.? Then I meet with the young adult. And the young adult has to be the one to agree to work with me. They have to
Yeah.
understand what I represent, the frequency of our meetings, how I work with them. They also, and it's kind of like a two-way interview. In fact, I almost refer to it as a chemistry call because it really is an
I love that.
opportunity of like, is this somebody, like,
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to inherently trust me. I'm a stranger that your parents put in front of you, right?
Yeah.
But do I show up authentically? Is the information that I'm sharing with you actually kind of sparking a little bit of curiosity for you and what it is that you're looking for? And what I'm looking for is there self-awareness? Is there interest for change? And so ultimately, I'm just looking for the window of opportunity for like, is the work, like me working with you, actually going to be welcomed, and will you show up for these meetings? Because if I'm chasing you down, if you're like,
Right.
yeah, I want to do this, and then very quickly, like, I can sniff the inauthenticity just as much as they can do that for me. I'm looking
Sure.
for an authentic connection with a young adult who genuinely has some awareness that their life as it is right now is not where they want to be, and they're looking for support in essentially leveling up or getting where they want to be. And where that kind of like that's where the like ambiguity exists, or all the gray, because it's like, do we need mental health supports? Is it just more wellness oriented? Do you just
Yeah.
need education on like adulting skills? Is there substance use? Like I'm asking all the questions to really
Right.
understand what the full picture is, and then identify whether or not it's a fit. And if it's a fit, then we go 3 months hard, and the goal, whatever it is that we're working towards, is what we're working towards.
I like this chemistry call thing because isn't that what it really is all about? You know what I mean?
100%. Yep.
We want to, it's not that we don't want to work with people that we don't like, but there has to be a fit because if it doesn't work, everybody's going to be fighting. It's just going to be a
Yeah.
constant struggle. So, but I like it. I do the same thing in the work that I
Yeah.
do. I just have never called it that. So I really like,
Yeah.
I tell you, learn something new every time you talk to somebody. That's why remember I said you can learn everything you need to
Yep.
know in life by having conversation. You will
Yep.
learn lots of things. So what are you seeing in terms of with Gen Z, like in terms of like mental health, identity, and with families? What's kind of the thing going on right now? I mean, I have Gen Zs.
Oh,
I got two
yep.
of them, so I knew. But I wanted to see what you're seeing because I know what I'm seeing in my house.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to keep this as succinct as possible.
Yeah,
So
it's okay.
a large percentage of what I'm seeing is anxiety, whether it's actually.
Yeah.
And I also just want to front load, like, this is also normal. This, like,
Yeah.
the actual, like, act of uncertainty for your
Right.
future, like feeling embarrassed, like having moments of instability, like questioning who you are and the path you want to take, like that stress is normal for this time period or
Right.
this like developmental age group. The difference, though, is that I'm seeing a large number that have some pretty irrational or kind of like looped thought processes that are stopping them from being able to do anything. So there's almost like this
Yeah.
level of anxiety, which is making it impossible for anybody to feel like they can even move forward. And here's an example, right? Somebody that's like, I went to college. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I decided to withdraw. I'm at home. Now I'm panicking. So we're also just dealing with the shame of like, what just happened?
Right.
And then the loss of any type of social connection that may or may not have happened. Also dealing with, if there's any dynamics with parents that might have been pushing the academic path. I don't know. But young adults now that they're home, we're saying, well, what are you going to do instead? Right? Okay, we'll support you not being in school, but you have to do something, right? Like
Right.
apply for a job or,
Right.
like consider other colleges or take a gap year. What is this going to look like? Obviously, I only just gave three examples or three
Yeah.
paths that could be pursued. What young adults are dealing with is almost information overload because
Mm,
because of access with technology. It is, well, we're still just comparing ourselves to our peers all the time.
yeah.
And then the other piece is there's just so much out there that it's scary to consider taking a step forward to pursue something because what if I'm picking the wrong path, right? Quote
Mm,
unquote. Or what if this doesn't work out? So we've got all of these like feelings of self-doubt or self-questioning, and it kind of comes from this like perfectionistic mindset of like I'm supposed to be doing something, I'm supposed to be really good at it, and I don't even know where to begin. So that's a big thing that I'm seeing. Another thing that I'm seeing just in the parental space is parents that are also really have been way more involved with their children, like being
yeah.
raised, whether that's helping with time management and school completion, waking up, doing all the things that need to be done, and then sending them off to college without or with limited supports, kind of
Right.
expecting like, oh, they'll be able to like show up, but seeing like a significant drop off. And then parents also just having a hard time not still being involved. And so it's also this disconnect and kind of honestly, it's a little bit of a lack of education around you can still support an over 18-year-old, but how do you support them? And a lot of that comes in kind of the space of understanding your own communication patterns, also understanding kind of just how you can empower your child, but also having awareness too that sometimes the path to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Like, hey, maybe you should do this. And it's like immediately your child's like, no, because it's coming from
Right.
you. Like, no. But parents don't realize that sometimes if you actually take a step back and insert a neutral party
Yeah.
like me, where I could be saying the same exact thing, and the young adult would actually be like open and curious to at least
Right.
explore it versus like just kind of shutting down or shutting out any type of ideas that parents are suggesting. So really just almost feeling like uh, there's a dissonance in what it is that they're doing and what it is that they want to do. And then that like dynamic with parents trying to influence or encourage, but it's just not being received.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned kind of this, information overload. Yeah, I agree. I think there's so much out there now that I think it's so many things listening to you. I mean, I feel like there's so many. My husband and I were talking about this the other day because, we were talking about how they sort of stigmatize every generation. Like they have, they talk about the millennials, they're a certain way. And I'm like, listen, we made them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're the Gen X. We brought the millennials and the Gen Zs in, and I laugh about this because, the very things. And hey, and I got a millennial and she's actually a really smart kid. And she's paying, you getting her apartment. I mean, she's doing okay. She's a teacher. She's doing okay out there in the world. And but it is so interesting because I was telling my husband this. I'm like, we complain about all these things, and I think really, as a parent with this having this span of an age group, I can honestly say I feel like, when you're talking about like some of us being involved a lot, maybe helicoptering a little bit is the term they like to
Mhm.
use, you know. I think so much of it is because when we were, like for Gen X specifically, when we were growing up, we were like just kind of turned, tur I wanna say turned loose and not turned loose
Yeah.
because I had a helicopter mom. I still had one back then too, but it was a very different time because we didn't
Yeah.
have social media, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have a way for our parents to get to keep tabs on us the way
Yeah.
that we can now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost like I was saying something to my husband, I'm like, we would go out in the morning and we knew not to hang around because if we said stupid things like I'm bored or there's nothing to do, well, our parents found things for us to do, so we were not dumb enough to do that. So
Mhm.
we would take off and leave and we would be told like either just check in at some point. So we might call from a friend's house on a landline, say, hey, we're at the friend's house, but we might be gone like all day and then come home at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, whereas it's so much different now because we've got, navigations on our phones and I'm not going to lie and say I never look, I still have a boy at home and he's scared. I'm not going to lie. He scares me sometimes. There will be times I'll be like, where's that kid at? Let me just make sure he's not doing something stupid. He's a good kid, but we're parents. And so I do think there is a lot of truth to what you're saying. And, there's just so much information and so much technology. And also I think the whole COVID thing just kind of messed them up too. It
Mm-hmm.
isolated them. The anxiety
Yeah.
is for real.
Yeah.
All my kids
Yeah.
have struggled at some point or another with some kind of, I mean, I don't want to say debilitating,
Yeah.
they couldn't do anything, but I'm talking about freezing, their panic attacks or some
Mm-hmm.
kind of anxiety that it is recognizable and they're having, and they've had to, they've noticed it for real.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that just speaks to like where they were age-wise
mhm,
or
yeah,
development-wise when COVID hit and how it impacted them, not just socially, but also in terms of like their academic experience. So like a
yeah,
lot of people that had any type of learning differences or challenges, obviously that kind of like manifested.
right.
And again, it depends on the school system. What I'm also seeing too, and this is just like, again, a curious observation, is that because of a lot of these young people. And if you think about it, right, like when we were growing up, it's not like we were in front of a mirror in the morning, right? Like brushing
Yeah,
your teeth, maybe
we
doing
were
like
out,
hair and makeup, and then you're out. Yeah, you don't
right.
see what you look like unless you're ever passing in front of a mirror. Now we have these young people who are literally being asked to be on a Zoom looking at themselves, right, on a screen for hours.
Never
Not
thought
just
about that.
not
Yes,
because
you're
of
right.
school, but you're talking
Yeah.
about like, okay, we switched to also having any type of like music lessons still online, doctor's appointments still online, seeing families still online. So now all of a sudden we see ourselves all the time and we're hyper vigilant of
Yeah.
our, like whatever little like features on our face that matter, right? Like as we're talking
Right.
right now, I'm like, oh, look at my eyebrows, like imagine
Right.
being an
But we do,
11-year-old boy.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But imagine being an 11-year-old boy or girl, right? Or just like a young person
Right.
that's like looking and going, oh my gosh, I never really realized that like one of my eyes is a little bit like,
And they're
kind
just
of
seeing it on the overdrive, a lot of
all
it,
the time. So
Yeah.
now it just kind of also manifests into like image and likeness and concerns about, again, which is factored into anxiety. In fact, that is a pretty common anxiety, OCD, and body dysmorphic
Yeah.
disorder is also kind of another like common trend that I'm seeing right now. But I look at that and has to be entirely from COVID.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and thank you for bringing that up because I don't know that I mean, maybe I in passing thought about that, but didn't really like think about that, in a way that, yeah, they're seeing this a lot. They
Yeah.
are. And I think it's interesting you bring all this to light because I think so often we're just like, well, hey, we were all kids. They should just suck it up. But I
Mm,
first of all, I don't think we should ever do that because we
yeah.
we should never pretend we know what somebody's going through. That's the
Yeah.
first thing. We're gonna say that right here because this is what people need to learn in life that when we stop pretending we know what people are going through, that would solve a lot of world problems. Okay, when we
Yeah.
were kids, we had to adjust to different things. And I'm sure when we were kids, the parents back then said that to us, like, we needed to figure
Mhm.
this out. You need to figure
Yeah.
it out, right? And we attempt to try to do the same thing. And I think we have to back up. And that's why these conversations are important because you're in it. You're talking to these kids, you're finding out what they're going through and listening to the dialogue. And so you can see these trends. You can see
Mm,
this as you're talking. Not every story is going to be exactly the same, but as you start to compile this data, talking, to each of these young adults, you can start seeing patterns and trends that are coming along,
yeah.
and that's when you have to say, okay, what is going on here? And maybe we should. It doesn't mean we have to bend everything, but it does mean we should be open to understanding, or I shouldn't say we don't have to necessarily understand, but attempting
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
understand where somebody's coming from. So
Yeah.
I love that you're talking about those things, And yeah, I would agree with you because I see all that in my house. So
Yep.
as a parent, and I'm sure there are many other moms out there right now that have kids this age, who probably say the same thing. They're probably going to love this conversation. They're going to be so glad that we're having this conversation. So I know you talk about both like proactive and reactive situations and
Mm.
tools and stuff. So I mean, I kind of get an idea what that is, but maybe talk a little bit on that for us.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best way to think about proactive is as a parent of a elementary age, middle school age, or high school aged young person, you're obviously like in the thick of it, right? Like you're shuttling them to all of these events and activities outside of high school until they get their driver's license. And obviously we know what their 9 to 5 looks like in terms of where they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be learning. But what we miss sometimes, and that I mean, let me just back up and say what I just described takes up a heck of a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
So there's very little that's built in for space to adult or start to like lean into a little bit of the autonomy that's necessary when they turn 18 and or go off to college or like just have moved on. So where if I could if I could draw a definitive line between what is proactive and what is reactive, it's the proactive is all of the time and space that we have before they graduate from high school and we're supposed to have some sort of plan. So proactively think about giving them the space to learn how to do their own laundry, giving them the opportunity and encourage them to actually hold a job. Make sure that we're also advocating for volunteer because volunteering is so important to give to others, be of service, because that's what helps us think bigger picture, like
Right.
globally about impact and purpose, right? Because it's not just about get a job or get a college degree. It's about how can I make a difference? How can I
Right.
show up and provide support? So those are things that matter. And a lot of those skills, right? Like scheduling their own doctor's appointment, teaching them how to pick up their own meds at a pharmacy or refill a prescription, giving them the space to actually administer their own medications if they are taking medications, things that just lead towards, hey, at some point, if parents were to just like not be around, would your young adult be okay to take care of themselves, right? And so some of that's also just understanding like giving them opportunities to think, not, like almost like my husband and I make a game of this sometimes, and I'll actually encourage some of the young adults I work with to do it. It's just like, hey, I know you want to like go to Google and ask or ChatGPT and ask this question. Let's pause for a second. What do you think? Like if before even asking, asking technology, like, what do you think? And it could be something as simple as like, why, whatever, what is the capital of Michigan? I don't know. Let's think about it. Okay, let's try to like draw on some of our previous information because we cannot be quite so reliant on tech. Now, anyways, I say all that and it's just like some of those things, like try to be proactive in that space. Where we're reactive is when we thought that the foundation existed, something happened, and now we're just in this, I don't want to say space of crisis, but it kind of is like a triage. Okay, like you went to college, it didn't work out, now what, right? It's like we're almost like exactly. We're on the plane and it's being built as we're in the air, so it just feels a little bit more clunky or chaotic. And so that's where it's important for parents. I always say for parents, like if you can't put your own oxygen mask on, you have to learn how to do that. And oftentimes that's me encouraging that parents are working with their own parent coach so that they can understand what it is that they're doing, what it is they're saying, how they're saying it, etc., is making an impact on their young adult. But how can the parents themselves just focus on themselves to give the young adult the space to be able to get the support that they need? So that reactivity feels messy, but if there's any opportunity for you to start teaching some of these life skills or independent adulting skills before they leave the house after, graduating high school, then you're going to have a better chance for kind of that trajectory for launching over the family that sets the young adult out saying like, we got you, good luck, like you can figure this out, and then they completely fall flat on their face, which is an unfortunate situation for the young adult, and they can bounce back from it, but it's just like that's a skinned knee experience that maybe they weren't anticipating, and so it hurts more because there's embarrassment, shame, whatever it is that they're kind of wrestling with. But we can learn and grow from it. It just kind of hurts a little bit more.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a roller coaster ride for sure getting through. And I think it's great that, the emphasis really on finding support because I think so often, we all think we're kind of going through something. We're sort of the only ones, but no, there are a lot of people that go through so that same mentor that I told you about used to say that that which we think is most personal is universal because of oftentimes we think that we're isolated and we're the only one going through. And I guarantee if you get to do enough conversation, you'll find some other people that are going through some similar situations. Stories might be a little
Yeah.
bit different, the nuances, but the overall themes or things that are coming up are
Yeah.
kind of universal in nature. So, and
Yeah.
support is huge. You talked about that early on in your story about
Yeah.
how you had mentors, when you were in college. And I'm a big believer in mentors. And, I've always said that even with my kids. I'm like, I am totally fine with them going and talking to somebody. I don't care if it's me. Like,
Yeah.
really, I don't, because I would rather them be thriving
Yeah.
and happy than me witnessing them not. And so if that means that they need to have a mentor, another support
Mm.
system, whatever, as long as it's healthy, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
And so I every time my kids have ever, I felt like if I don't say every, I'm not say every single time, but most of the time I feel like when my kids have gone through something, I have said, do you need to talk to someone? Do you
Yeah.
feel like you want to talk to someone? You don't tell me.
Yeah.
And I don't get offended by that. I
Yeah.
don't, I mean, maybe when I was younger, it might have, but I have
Yeah.
been. We're on kid number 3 now. I feel like, you know what? By the time you get to the third one, you're just like, please just be healthy. Okay. You're like, seriously, like it,
Yeah.
like the whole diaper bottle thing, right?
Mhm.
Like kid number 1, it was like diapers off at a certain age, done with the bottle, kid
Mhm.
out. Okay. By kid 3, you're like, the diaper will stay on till kid 3 decides he no longer wants diaper. Like, seriously, he is not going down the wedding aisle with the diaper on his bottom? I'm serious. I laugh. I can tell all kinds of stories. I'm telling you, by the time you get to third, you're like, man, we used to joke because, I used to laugh at my mother-in-law when my husband is the middle of 3 boys, and when
Mm.
the youngest came home from school, like, I remember I've never forgotten, and we're talking this has been, like, years now because 'cause we're
Yeah.
older now, but I remember her saying something about she couldn't wait for the last one to go off to college or get a job or something, and I recalled that conversation. I told my husband that one day. I said, "I kinda get this whole thing at the end why parents get like this because you sorta get to a place like you've been down one not you love your
Yeah.
kids, but you've been down one scope, a young adult. You get to number 2, and by the time you're tired. You're
Yeah.
like, "Man, I can't I just don't do what you want."
You're like, "Can't your older siblings teach you, like, what
Yeah,
it is that you need to do? Like,
and it
just go
never
ask
works
them."
that way. It never because 'cause they're all completely different. Just when you think you're like, you got it figured out, the next one comes
Uh-huh.
in and they do another thing, and you're like, "Really? Like, seriously, seriously, how did you do this?" That's why I think
Yeah.
you just get tough, and the
Yeah.
sense of humor. Remember we talked about
Yeah.
you just gotta laugh sometimes because 'cause you're like, "Man, some of the things will just, like, make you nuts?"
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well,
it's
and
good.
that it's the humor, and it's equally as important to say that, like, we can put a lot of pressure on this time
Yeah.
period, right? Like, you're supposed to, find your people, find your spouse, find your job, and it's
Right.
just like it's so pressure cooked that it's
Yeah.
important for us to, like, just remember, like, hey, at 18 maybe you won't figure it out, and then that's okay. So let's be lighthearted about some of these situations that can feel really weighted. Oh gosh, okay, so you withdrew from college, or you were suspended academically from school, or hey, you just got fired from a job. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like, you take a minute to lick your wounds and be like, we can all be collectively sad, and it's gonna be okay. Like, how do we
Yeah.
move forward from this and find humor in it? Because if you don't, it's so serious, and that seriousness can be so painful too. Like, it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. It's hard. I mean, it is. It really is. And there's really, I think, as a parent, I'm speaking to the other parents. I think there really is no. You're going to mess it up, and you just got to be okay messing it up. But you do better. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's with anything you do in life. You know better, you do better because you're just. I mean, you're going to mess it up, and I
Yeah.
think the minute we allow ourselves a little bit of grace to say, okay. I messed that up. How can I make that right? I think that's where the healing comes and the learning comes. It's when we double down and it has to be this way because that's the way it worked for me and that's the way I got it. And
Yeah.
the skills we learned, it's kind of
Mm,
like I would say, cursive writing. My dad and I love to have this conversation. Okay, we learned how to write in cursive, but do we really we can read and write, okay? It's
mm,
my dad's like, "Well, you can't read the old documents." And I'm like, "Dad, yes, you can because they're online. We can read everything. I don't think this is the most pressing thing we need to worry about teaching our kids. There are a lot of things. Let's
mm.
teach them some life skills. Maybe we should teach them how to communicate. That would be a really problem solve. Work with a team.
Yeah.
There are a lot of
Yeah.
important things we could be teaching kids. I could have a conversation about this all day long. I tell you, it's so funny. I love it. Okay, well, in all of this, after
Mhm.
everything we've talked about here, this has been so good. So I want to go back to the success question, and I want to
Yeah.
ask for you because this is about you as the mentor and the resource provider
Mm.
and coach, whatever. I mean, you're all these things to these young adults that are coming to you.
Yeah.
How do you look at success for yourself? Like, how do you measure that in terms of what you do, your work or your life, however you want to place
Yeah.
that on yourself?
It's kind of twofold for me at this point because I have moved on from, like way back
Yeah.
as 18-year-old Joanna, where I was like, I'm going to be a I'm going to be a business owner, which is funny, right? I was actually
Yeah.
working towards my like undergrad as a business major and then quickly was like, nah, now full circle because I do obviously run my own business.
Right, right.
The financial piece to the business is that I am consistent and I pay my bills.
Yeah.
And so like that, great. I'm successful in the sense that like financially I'm independent from my parents and I'm able to like do the things that I want to do
Sure.
as an adult. But the other side of things is where it's just more successful. I carved a path for myself where people told me, "What are you doing? Like that's not going to work." And not only did I see it through, I'm reminded almost 10 years later that this is and will continue to be a necessary space, a necessary role. And if anything, if you're listening and you're like, I'm kind of interested in this, like there's room for more
Yeah.
people just like me that want to work with this population because there's more than enough young adults that actually need it. Then there's space on my limited 12-person caseload, right? And so being successful in that I've launched the business, I was met with resistance and I love what I do. The like the crux of why I did this and the relationships with the young adults, they fuel me on a daily
Mhm.
basis. Am I challenged? Absolutely. Like I'm still like constantly like, dang, I have to be creative. Like this is not easy.
Right,
But I
right.
love what I do because I am making a difference and helping the young people that want to be helped as they show up to work with me. And to me, that is success because I'm helping other people carve out their own path and they're finding joy, they're finding meaning, they're finding, what they're wanting to do. And that I would, if that stopped, I would end tomorrow, but it's not. And for that, I find what it is that I'm doing successful for myself and for the people that I'm serving.
I love it. And I can tell you're passionate about it. And I think that's a good thing and important thing. You have the ability to create change in young people. And I think that's is nice because that's a trajectory change for them. It's
Yeah.
hard as people age, it's harder to get them to change and evolve. But you're at a pivotal place right now where these guys are still very, even though they're stubborn a lot of times and bullheaded and convicted, they're still I think in a way not damaged.
Yeah.
They're not jaded by society yet. They're not completely, like I was thinking about this even the other day because I was thinking about myself and I go back and I look at my podcast episodes and I'm talking just from the time I started and I've evolved so much. And in some ways, amazingly, because I'm much more um, open to dialogue and I'm open to different perspectives, but I'm also not as naive as I was when I started. And so
Mm,
it's both ways because I find myself more maybe more critical in some ways about things, even though I'm more open, some ways more jaded by things that have happened. And that's what I love about what you get to do is that these guys are still malleable. Like they're still impressionable to me
Yeah.
because they haven't totally been like
Yeah.
damaged, and hurt by the world and all the things out there. And so good on you, because I do agree there needs to be more people that are doing this and speaking up for them and as a parent, yes, I say that, but also as once a young person, I would
Yeah.
have loved to have known that maybe they were there and I didn't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just wasn't a commonplace. But what kind of difference that could have made, and
Yeah.
that's why, just so you know, it's kind of why I do this podcast too. It's not just about, when people look at this and they go, why do you do this? Because it's not really a big income, generating
Yeah.
thing. It's growing, it's getting big, and it may at some point turn into that. I mean, I'm kind of in that now where I'm trying to talk about sponsorship and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, what I always tell people, what the podcast is for me, it's about inspiring the people that are listening to make different choices, because what I firmly believe is those people go home and they have families and they have children and they have people that interact with them every day, and when every choice that they make impacts another person, so they have the opportunity to change the trajectory every day and make a different choice.
Yeah.
And hopefully when they do that, it's a positive one and they have the ability to impact another life. And so that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day, is that. And so hopefully, in that process, we build healthier adults that build healthier children, healthier families, and it all trickles down from there. So
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. I think it's amazing. And I want to, congratulate you and encourage you to continue doing that.
Thank you.
So let's do some fun questions, and I'm going to have you tell us about the
Okay.
podcast and where people can find you. Okay.
Cool.
So if you could give I'm going to read this out.
Yeah.
You could give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice about adulthood, what would it be?
That it's okay to play hard, but just make sure that you also are, especially if you're going to go to school, you have to remember why college exists. It is optional higher education. So it's not meant to be this like social space where you just meet friends. Like you actually have to show up for class. You have to do the work and you have to understand why you're there.
Show up.
Yeah, show up.
Especially if mom and dad are paying. Show up, right?
100%.
Yes, that's good. I love it. There's so many things. I love that question. Like, what do you tell your younger self, right? Like, I think I would be like, just chill out. It's going to be okay, Jennifer. It's going to be okay. But you better buckle up. Put your big girl panties on because it's going to be wild.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be saying, right? Be saying. All right. So when you're not working with families or recording your podcast, what's something you enjoy doing for yourself that kind of recharges you, gets you back in the space, ready to go?
Two things, probably. One, just making sure that I'm actually like I've got a handful of adult friends where I live, like other couples that my husband and I like hanging out with. So making sure that we're carving out time to actually like intentionally spend space and like just have good conversation, and then doing activities that are also new to me. Like sometimes I'll just seek out like what's happening in my town. Like, oh, there's the library is giving a presentation on X. Like that sounds interesting to me. Oh, they're teaching a like Tai Chi intro class. Like, why not go ahead and just like learn some of these things? So I feel like for me, it's always lifelong learning and making sure that I've got time for friends. And then my own health and well-being is tremendously important. And that is like, depending on the time of year, like right now we're wrapping up cross-country skiing because winter is done. Now we're getting ready to pull our paddle boards out. And so that's like a thing, right? If I'm not running, if I'm not, like I'm just doing these things that are not just good exercise, but they're also mindful activities, which is helping me like, again, just live in the moment. That is also an activity that I'm encouraging some of the young adults that I work with to do as well.
Yeah, staying active definitely is important, I think, and I think even as you age, just get that just mastered when you're young, and Carrie, you will be a happier person and be healthier for the long haul. That's what we want to stay fun. But I love that I love that you're incorporating, because I think it's so good for mental health and even it's funny because you say that, because I will my kids were all at different times like active in different things like running and stuff. I had one that went to school for cross country and track, and my son ran for a while. But we've had soccer, we've had all the things. And I always sort of kind of measure their how well they're like, I don't want to say coping because they're all coping, but more like thriving based on their activity levels, like what they're doing. And so I'll tell my husband, I'm like, my son needs to go like rock climb or go run or something. And so every once in a while I'll be like, hey, have you been running in a while? But I don't want to say like you should do that. I'll just be like,
Yeah.
you been running in a while? Or what happened to the rock climbing thing? Because I try to get him talking to see what he's doing or whatever. And it's so funny because you will laugh, but every once in a while, all of a sudden he'll come in and be like, I'm going outside. And it doesn't happen like it'll go by, weeks will go by, and all of a sudden he'll go, I'm going out running. I'm like, oh, you are? Where are you going to run at today? It's just that nonchalant, like, I'll be like, "Have you been and I'm just like, let it go. Don't push it, but I do. I think it's important. And as an avid exerciser, I know how important it is. But I love that you're outdoors and doing all the stuff. So it's good stuff. Are you, this is just a kind of a fun question I want to ask you because I kind of see where you're. There is a book called The Power of When by the sleep doctor. And he talks about like circadian rhythms, how like we're all these 4 animals, like we're either a lion, a wolf, a bear, or a dolphin. And like the lion is the person who gets up in the morning, loves breakfast, ready to go. Wolf is the nighttime person. They get recharged at night, kind of wake up later in the morning. The bears are what like 80% of the population are. Get up normal time, go to bed normal time. They're, and then you got dolphins that never sleep. I have a dolphin. My oldest is a dolphin. And then I've got my son. My son is a lion like me. And then my middle is a bear like my husband. And the really neat thing about the book, Joanna, is it tells you everything from when to take your medicines, when to exercise, when to sign contracts. So like personally, I know that most of my business is done better in the morning. At nighttime is probably when I'm more creative. Don't get me to sign anything important because my brain is tired. So I'm just curious, are you a morning person? Are you a night person? Or you kind of get, can get up in the morning normal time and just kind of roll with it and go about your day?
I think I'm a bear. I mean, like it does. I will say that there have been points in my life where like I can show up more like a lion, and then other times where like for whatever reason maybe I am more of the wolf, right? Like more of that like later in the evening. Right now, I think, and this is just like coming out of hibernation, right? Like the winter months. I think I really am totally a bear in this moment. Once summer rolls in, I'll probably land more into the like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm taking full advantage of the entire day when the sun is out. And so I just wake up earlier and charge the day.
Oh, I'm loving it now because we got us an hour forward now. Sun's staying out longer now.
Exactly.
I'm like, totally. Can we just leave and spring forward like all the time? Because I like that daytime, in the evening kind of thing. But my husband's from Montana where the days are kind of long, and I'm in Texas that we don't have that as much. But, I love it. And that's a great book. You should check it out. I love it. I've even told clients that before. I used to joke and I would say, my husband's a bear and then I'm the lion. The only time that the bear and the lion can actually talk about important things. 3:00 on Sunday. No kidding.
Okay. That's important.
And no kidding, because he always tells me he doesn't have the bandwidth. I'm like, okay, 3:00 on Sunday. I need to come in with my list, all of it. Have it all down. We got to go through this. Because he'll come in and want to do 8 p.m. at night. And I'm like, dude, no, I've been up since 4:30. Brain is toast. We're done. So anyways, good book to read. There's a lot of sciencey stuff in it. So that part gets kind of a little bit, but it's really good because I love it. It's like, hey, I know this person is this. I kind of know how to navigate, with them and stuff. So tell us real quick a little bit about your podcast, what that's about and where everybody can find you.
Yeah. Title of the podcast is called Success is Subjective. You can find it on any podcast playing platform, or you can also, honestly, if you just land on my website, which is lilyconsulting.com, you can also get access to that there. The podcast itself actually started 6 years ago, where I was just finding myself having the same conversation over and over, and then wishing that I had like, why don't these stories exist, right? Why is there not a single place where we can go and listen to more stories, specifically focusing on this narrow vision of what were you doing at 18, or what did you think you were going to do at 18? What
Yeah.
did you actually do? What are you doing now? And then to your point, we're also demystifying or redefining what success looks like for each individual guest. And so the benefit is it's targeted towards young adults that might need a little, just an opportunity to hear that it's going to be okay. And
Right.
same for parents. Like, they need to hear that if my child has a similar story to this particular guest's path, that again, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I love that, Joanna. And I think, and you're right, because I do think that it's hard. It's the hindsight, right? Like you look at it and you go, it's going to be okay. It's just
Yeah.
bumpy right there, but it will work itself out. And it may
Yeah.
be painful and messy, but you will look back at it and you'll be like, that was a tough time, but I got through it.
Yeah.
So thank you for what you're doing. I love it. Thank you for sharing with us. It's been so much fun. I know we could talk about this stuff probably for a really long time, and we would just drive everybody crazy because I got lots of stories that I could add to that. Oh my gosh. I'm sure my kids will be like, Mom, shut up. Do not say anything else. Right. So, Joanna, you're amazing. Love what you're doing. Appreciate you. And I'm so glad we were able to get you on here today and have this conversation.
Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. And of course, to our audience, we appreciate you. We love you as well. If you enjoyed the episode, which we hope that you did, you know what to do. All the things: like, subscribe, share, and comment so that we can keep sharing all of this fabulous content. And of course, as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And guess what? Every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.